Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nara and here we're discussing astrology, spirituality, and psychology. And this video is about Scorpio or Pluto in the 10th house or midheaven of your birth chart. If you want to gain more clarity and to change your life, you definitely need to find out your personal chart placements, planetary placements, rising sign, moon sign, and all of that stuff, right? But for this, you do need to know your time of birth, and you might want to go on astro.com and check out the free horoscopes under ascendant drawing, and you'll be able to calculate your chart and find out your personal placements. But if you do happen to have Scorpio or Pluto in the 10th house, then welcome to this video. Okay, so what is 10th house? 10th house naturally belongs to Capricorn, right? It's Saturn's house because Saturn rules Capricorn. And the 10th house is an earth sign house, it's an earth house, and it relates to our career. And it's actually the highest point of your birth chart. So if you pay attention, your birth chart starts, like the way we read birth chart is from ascending, right? From the first house. So it starts from here, let's say, and then it goes all the way up. So the 10th house is pretty much the highest point of in your life achievement. Okay, the highest point of your achievement in your life. That's the 10th house. Some people will use the 10th house, some people won't. If you have planets there that are forming very predominant aspects in your birth chart, then you will definitely follow the career path of your 10th house. However, some people don't do that when they don't have like major aspects formed. But anyways, that's besides the point. But yeah. So the 10th house is the career, it's the public image, it's the reputation, something that we become known for our talents and skills, and then we become famous for it. So people start to recognize us for what we do. So that's our midheaven, right? The 10th house also represents our bosses or people who are above us at work or in whatever company or whatever partnership we have. Sign and the planet that you have in the 10th house will pretty much embody your boss with that energy, and your boss will start acting or acts from that planet, okay? So the 10th house careers, if you have Pluto or Scorpio in the 10th, the careers or professions that you might want to be inclined to implement, right, and become known for is psychologist, it's spiritual counselor, astrologist, astrologer rather. It's things also like hidden secretive jobs where you're not able to disclose the information about where you work and what kind of work you do. It's like FBI agents, KGB in Russia, right? So it's all Plutonian professions that are involving a lot of stress and psychological intensities, and not everybody can handle those, but Pluto or Scorpio in the money houses, which is the second, the 6th and the 8th, the 10th and the 8th sometimes as well, is considered as money house at times because it's related to banks and credits, right? Like stocks, bonds, and investments in general, cryptocurrency. But like if you have water houses, then that means that you are more than others, especially Scorpio in the 2nd, 6th, or the 10th house. That implies that you're someone who can do the jobs where you need to use your psychology and where you undergo through a lot of psychological stress. However, you have this resilience and an ability to transform yourself and be able to go into the dark energies and not be affected by them, or allow them to affect you in a positive way to transform your personality. So yeah, so you have this resilience, and that's why these jobs are really good for Scorpios in the money houses, right, or earth houses. But just in general, Pluto represents our mother, right? So if you have MC Pluto in the MC, that means that you either had a mother that traumatized you in some way, which made you kind of be a little bit more cautious towards your mother. And there's an incessant feeling on the inside, the feeling of danger in regards to your mother, even though mother may not even be with you, actively live with you. However, you still sense that danger from her even when she's not around, which comes from childhood trauma, right? But then also sometimes if it can be taken too far, if a person doesn't really go to therapy or work on themselves or try to understand their psychology, There might be an extreme of this case where they start to expect and project that perspective, that trauma onto the world, and they start kind of hide from the society because it implies danger, which comes from their caregivers, right? Which is mother in this case, because Pluto represents her mother more so than father. A father too, but mostly mother, I would say. It depends, right? It depends. It's so different for everybody, but I would say majority of times it's representing your mother. And some people won't have that. Some people will see their mother with this placement as someone who, you know, had a lot of strife, who had a lot of you know, obstacles in life, you know, and she, regardless of the circumstances, she was able to handle the situations and not allow them to bring her down. And if you had this mother with this placement, you probably you know, take pride in your mother, and that also equipped you with the ability to overcome a lot of obstacles in your life, in adult life, because that was your primary example when you were growing up. Okay, so an example of this is Richard Nixon, on whom I did a whole psychological research for my political science presidency class. And I did the biography of Richard Nixon. He had Pluto in the 10th house. And by the way, I'm going to get into the Watergate scandal, and which is actually associated with this placement, right? And also his, you know, employees, his staff, who is a good example of this placement. So there is always, you know, the need to control, to have influence over public, over people, okay, in some way, which is related to the job that you do. And there is a need for manipulation at times, because you're not able to gain control and power over people directly. So they go into indirect ways of doing this, and since it's Scorpio, it's manipulation, right? With Pluto, it's manipulation, it's manipulating, doing like secretive type of business behind the backs, and yeah, in order to advance your career, in order to gain more influence, right? He was able to do that. He was reelected for the next presidency term. However, a year and a half later, everybody found out, and his personal staff snitched on him, right? Actually, the third house guy, Handelman, snitched on him, and they got caught, and his presidency term came to an end, as well as his reputation. So this is the Pluto and Scorpio in the 10th house. So it may, you know, inspire you to go an extra mile to manipulate in order to, you know, expand your influence, or have a bigger impact, or, you know, save your job. So yeah, and also Handelman, he was his staff, okay, and he had Pluto in the 3rd house. And Pluto in the 3rd house, it's a lot of manipulations around friends, groups, and people you work with, okay? So it backfired on him as well, right? So he basically, to save his ass, he snitched on Nixon, on his boss, and then they went to jail. And then later on, he wrote a book on how not to lie and how to be a good person, whatever, right? So that's the lesson of Pluto. So I like to bring up those historical examples, because they make it hella easier for us to understand the nature of these placements. And then again, right, going back to this Nixon's example, look at the psychological motivations of doing this. So you should always check out your psychological motivations behind the inclinations that you have before you even go and implement and execute them, because there is a danger, right, that the psychological foundations, the motivations that you have may be coming from a bad place. And as we know, right, Pluto likes to take everything from you away so that you can rise back up again, but in a new light, in a transformed way. But you can't do that unless you know, lose everything, because when we have everything, we're still attached, we identify, so we have a certain identity when we have a lot of things, right, like material possessions, whatever. But once it's all gone, we can build from a blank slate, right? So there's nothing to attach to, there's nothing to identify with, there's nothing to prove, really, you know, there is nothing to keep going, like there's no image to keep going. That's why we can build new, right? And that's a nature of Pluto's house, and that's what literally happened with Nixon he was stripped away of everything he achieved through manipulation, right? Through that Pluto in the 10th. And then that Pluto, yeah, it gave him the re-election, but then, you know, it took everything away so that he understands that these psychological motivations is not a way to go in life, okay? Because they're gonna always bring you down. So with Pluto, period, okay, whatever placements you have in Pluto, whatever Plutonic placements you have, doesn't matter. It's very fucking important, okay, to work on your psychology, because like with every single Pluto house, there will be a highlight, a spotlight on the area of your life where you want to manipulate others in order to get what you want from that particular aspect, okay? So please be aware of that. For me, it's the second house, so I have to be aware of the second house things like manipulating, material possessions, whatever. Because there's really, you know, dark motivations, and it's against the universe. And if something is against the universe, it comes and backfires on us all the time. So yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything for this video. But yeah, let me know if you guys like the example of Richard Nixon, because I feel like these powerful figures and just, you know, Wall Street people, White House people, very important to look at the history, look at their experiences in careers and understand Plutonic energies, especially because most of them had Scorpio or Pluto's placements in their charts. That's why they're in control, right? So, okay guys, please let me know if this video resonated with you. I would love to hear your interpretations. If it didn't, I would still love to hear your personal interpretations and how it's playing out in your life. But thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye y'all.